We've had numbers of companies here, mortgage companies, title companies, who have been battling away with the federal government as the federal government has literally changed the rules on them midstream. And they're like, look, we don't have direction. We don't, you can't, it's one thing to alter the route of the road, but I'm mixing metaphors here, but it's one thing to alter the route of the road that we're going to go down. But when you start changing the rules of the roadway, you're asking me to now drive on the right side instead of the left side. You're asking me to look at, green lights as red lights and red lights as green lights. And I don't, know which way to go. That's the kind of confusion and lack of clarity that we have had for so many in the business world. Go ahead.
What I was going to say, is there anybody in particular I should talk to locally who can?
Well, I mean, we had a title company here in West Michigan that was fined by the CFPB for doing an action that there was no law against. The CFPB decided it didn't like it. Leveled the initial fine that they leveled was just massive. I actually had a Democrat colleague of mine on the phone with the administration trying to help us out because it was so egregious. And it's that kind of overstepping that is frustration. And offline, we can share that name. And so there's a lot of different. You talk to any community banker, any mid-sized banker, talk to insurance companies. The fiduciary rule that is coming down through the Department of Labor, of all things, where it shouldn't be coming from, and how that affects people with their investments. Smaller investors are going to either literally, they call them robo-advisors for a reason. They load your information into a formula and spit out what your investment portfolio should look like if you're a small investor. So you literally have a computer picking what you're going to, how you should try to retire, and pulling out the human element and all that. So there's a number of things, just even in our area. Move on to regulation and to taxation. Those are the two things that we often hear are the major impacts. Again, it's a little of that. Don't just change the rules of the road on me. I've figured out a way to deal with my tax liabilities, and in some ways that's very bad because we've got trillions of dollars parked offshore by companies that aren't taking it back here into the United States because of a double taxation. But when you start telling me that I should buy this piece of equipment and I should be geared for this set of regulations, and then halfway through you change the rules on me and tell me that you're going to penalize me if I do what you just told me I should do, that's what paralyzes a lot of folks in business, is they sit back and just go, okay, this is going to get really expensive and it's unpredictable, so maybe I'm just better to sit back and do nothing. And that's why you've seen small, medium, and large size companies, public and private, sitting on unprecedented amounts of cash, because they're afraid to invest, whether it's into human capital or machinery and equipment, and they've really